Father as guinea pig here. All Franciscans are friars, whether they're brothers or priests, but not all of them. We don't use the word friar very much. We use father, but they're friars, and they all wear a habit, and they have the cord around the cincture around their waist, which has the 3 knots on it: chastity, poverty, and obedience. And years ago, until the 70s, I guess, they used to wear a rosary on the other side, 7-decade rosary, that was called a seraphic rosary. But with the cars, getting in and out of cars, the rosary kept breaking, so I think they eliminated it. Yeah. Okay. So Father's going to say hello.
Well, welcome everybody. So from Our Lady of the Pillar, huh? Yes. So we're Franciscans at Our Lady of the Pillar. You have a religious order priest. You know the name? Marianist, right. There's a famous Marianist from St. Anthony's, Father Ralph Seifert. You might know him. He was president of Chaminade, so this was his home parish, so he would often come. He'd sit right around here for Mass on Saturday nights, so he was a special man, a special Marianist and priest. So glad to welcome all of you today. Anybody been here before to St. Anthony's? Okay.
Well, who's the breaker?
I'm the breaker.
Larry.
So glad you're here today, and Mike will give you a wonderful tour. The Franciscans have been here since 1863, so I haven't been here that long.
Your hair's starting to show.
I know. So glad you're here. Welcome. Come back anytime for Mass on the weekends, or even during the week. We have 6:30 a.m. Mass, so I'm sure you're going to come to that. All right. So
one distinction Father has. His father was ordained in this parish. Ordained as you want me to hear what?
1998.
1998.
All right. Enjoy. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Father.
Enjoy your tour. Thanks for coming. I'm happy to have you.
So, we welcome you again to St. Anthony's. And as I said, we're Franciscans up here. Now, there's 3 branches of Franciscans. There's the Order of Friars Minor. They're called the Lesser Brothers. And then there's the Conventional. And then there's the Capuchin, which are cloistered. And we're going to talk a little bit about how the Franciscans came here to St. Anthony's. We're going to talk about the churches that were here, and then we're going to go down and take a tour of the church as well. Okay. If you have any questions, raise your hand. I'll be happy to answer them for you if I can. This all started back in 1857 when a young priest in Cincinnati was named a bishop by Pope Pius IX. Now, his first assignment as a bishop was the southern half of the state of Illinois. Now, you know how big Illinois is. He had the whole southern half as his diocese. When he got there, he found out he had 55,000 Catholics, 29 parishes, but not a priest. So in the fall of 1857, he went to Europe, hoping to convince order priests like the Marianists or any other order to send priests over here to fill up his parishes. Didn't have a lot of luck. And on his way back home, he stopped at the friary in Paderborn, Germany. And there he met a provincial, a young man who was very foresighted in the missions. And he said as soon as possible, he would try and send somebody over here that spoke German over here. Now, to his surprise, when they came over here, there was 3 priests, 4 brothers, and 2 third order Franciscans. Now, while all this was going on over there, here in St. Louis, we had some 60,000 people right before the Civil War started, and they all spoke German. Unfortunately, all the priests were Irish and spoke English. So they had a really tough time accepting Mass when it was in Latin. So Bishop Kenrick had heard that there were priests over in Alton, Illinois who spoke German. So he wrote and asked if it would be possible to send a priest over here to say Mass. Now the reason he did that is because those 60,000 people only had 2 places to go to Mass. You attended one this morning, St. Peter and Paul, which is 2.5 miles to the north. and the other one is St. Boniface, which is 2 miles to the south. Now, these people didn't have any means of transportation, so they very seldom got to Mass. The only time they did get to Mass was in the House of Refuge, which was in Marquette Park, a little ways north of here. So, with 60,000 people who were mostly Catholic speaking German, the bishop said that he would send somebody over here as soon as possible. Well, he sent Father Servatas Altnix, who brought the priests over from Germany, and another priest and 2 brothers. They arrived here in 1862. Now, the first thing he had to do is he met with the trustees of the parish, and he met with the archbishop, and after he met with the archbishop, then a man by the name of Mr. John Whitnell donated a piece of land, big piece of land right here. And on that piece of land was a frame house, a 2-story frame house. Well, they used that to live on the 2nd floor, and on the 1st floor was where they had Mass. So after that, the first Mass was said here on February the 5th in 1863. Now, what Father Servatas then focused on building a church. The first church here at St. Anthony's was a Gothic church, and when you were driving down the street, you saw this big front yard over here. That's where the first church at St. Anthony's stood. It was a true Gothic style church. It was 143 feet wide. It was 143 feet long, 50 feet wide, and accommodated about 700 people. Now, that was able to accommodate the parish for a few years. But then around 1900, after the church was built, it started in 1864, finished in 1869, but by the time the turn of the century came around, there wasn't enough room for all the people. So the pastor at that time, Father Timothy Magnan, decided what he'd do is he moved the baptismal fountain outside the church. Well, that allowed for a few more people, but not nearly enough. So then he decided he was going to tear out both sides of the church and build a cloisterary, which would, the total combination of that plus the 700 would accommodate 1,500 people. He was transferred before he could do any of this, and the parish had a new pastor by the name of Father Bernard Moore. He looked at that plan and said, nah, I don't think we're going to do this. So he met with the trustees of the parish, and he met with the archbishop, and they decided that they would build this church right here. So this is a true Romanesque style church. Everything, all the arches, the windows and everything are all around it. The most significant thing is laid out in the form of a cross. There's a 3-aisle nave, goes down where it breaks, it becomes the transept, the crossbar, and then it goes up the sanctuary steps, into the sanctuary, up to the high altar, which is then covered by what's called the baldacchino. Now, many of the big churches that were being built, they had no way of cleaning the churches. So what they did is they built these massive structures over the altar and where the Blessed Sacrament was to keep dirt and debris from flying and getting on the altar. So everything in this church was handmade. Pews are made of oak. The floors are oak. The confessionals are all hand-carved oak. And it's very beautiful the work that he was done. The altars, everything is all hand-carved. Any questions? No? You're doing that good? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry? Big other friars here? The priest. See, we don't call, you call yours a rectory. We call ours a friary or a monastery because they're friars. Okay? Yes, sir.
How many people does the church hold now?
See?
How many people does the church
How many people we have?
How many people does the church hold?
Oh, it originally held 1,400. But I guess we could talk about the fire. But then after the fire in 1994, the Archbishop had a couple requests, and one of them was to create a gathering spot in the back of the church and on the side. So they removed a few of the pews. So it's about to 1,200 now instead of 1,400. The windows were put in by a man named Emil Frey, who came from Germany. His studio used to be on South Grand, and it's now the 5th generation of Fry's that take care of the windows, and they're located in Kirkwood, Missouri. So why don't we take a walk down and we'll talk about the stained glass windows